Welcome to a morning edition of Negronis with Nord. We have switched out alcohol for coffee. I am flying to Rome this evening, but I didn't want to leave y'all hanging for a week, so we're going to record a quick episode here. To kick it off, we sparked a bit of a conversation in the comments of an Instagram post. We took a clip out of an old episode where I was talking about how, as an influencer, when you're working with a brand, your job is not just to create content, it is to sell the product, and that you are being naive if you don't fully understand exactly what your role is in that relationship and why the brand is paying you. And I got a decent amount of pushback in the comments, people saying that, they're storytellers, not salespeople, that it is a slippery slope to assume that influencers should sell product from their influence alone. We aren't salespeople standing at a mall kiosk. Unless your contract specifically states your job is to move X number of units, the onus is not on us, the influencer, to sell. Obviously, like any internet take, it didn't have full context. It's not completely, a nuanced argument. But as an influencer, you have to understand, if a brand is giving you their money for anything, their goal eventually is that they're going to sell more product, right? They're not charities. And so while direct sales may not be the KPI of the campaign that you're working on with the brand, this industry cannot exist. It cannot continue to grow if we are not driving sales. That is the only reason it exists. And again, understand the nuance. Yes, of course, we cannot expect an influencer post on its own to take care of the entire funnel from brand discovery to sales. I argue till I'm blue in the face about how hard attribution is on social and how unfair it is to judge an influencer's impact by tracking sales, because ultimately it's just so difficult, and it's such a kind of discovery engine, not a conversion engine. Yes, we are telling stories. Yes, we are trying to inspire people. All of those things are true. But if you kid yourself into thinking that your job is anything other than selling product, then you're doing yourself a disservice. These brands are businesses. They have shareholders. Their only real purpose in the world is to make money for those shareholders. If they can make the world better, if they can make people happy, if they can create some really cool, interesting stuff in the meantime, that's great. But ultimately understand why these businesses exist and why they're paying you. I mean, this is true even, let's zoom back, even the charitable things that brands do are marketing. Most of the charity that brands engage in is either to purchase influence, or they're using it to soften their brand image. If you are an oil company that is, systematically setting the fucking earth on fire, then giving a bunch of money to environmental causes and trying to support those things is used to kind of clean up your image. So even the charitable donations brands are making are in pursuit of selling, and they are a marketing tool. Continue to have this conversation. Welcome any feedback on it. We also got a question. So the question is, when it comes to building a relationship with a brand, do you think follower count or content style aesthetic fit is a bigger barrier to entry? I'm going to assume by barrier to entry you mean creating the relationship and getting the deal. This is a bit of a multi-part question here. I think for most brands, they probably have a minimum following count that would spark their interest, right? So for instance, you can be a content creator who has an aesthetic and a style of content and a mood and vibe that is absolutely perfect for a brand. You have 1,000 followers, you reach out to them, and they never get back to you, because ultimately for them 1,000 followers isn't enough. Now, every brand is going to have a different number. For some, they may not have one. For some, it could be 100,000, right? And so the number of followers is generally a kind of hurdle that you have to jump over. That is true as you scale up, right? If you have 1 million followers and you DM a brand, it's going to be much easier to get a response, because the scale of what you can offer them, which is eyeballs, is so much larger than 10,000 followers that they're instantly going to be more interested. Now, once you cross that hurdle, then content style becomes really important, I'd say, for most brands, right? That ultimately, if a brand is trying to reach like young professionals living in urban areas and your content is all like CrossFit workouts and you have 2 million followers, ultimately, like, it's never going to work. The following count alone is not enough. So it's a bit of a kind of multi-pronged thing. That first, again, we have to kind of cross that kind of threshold they have of what following level is kind of worth their time. Because you have to understand, like, working with an influencer, even gifting them is, there's a certain time outlay that takes to do that, engage in that, and to build that relationship, go back and forth on sizing, on shipping, on expectations. If they're paying, then there's negotiations back and forth. All of these things cost time, money, and so we have to make sure that we are like, it is worth the time to do it. And that's not saying that your following isn't worth anything. It's just saying that, like, as a brand grows, the scale that they need to make an impact also grows, right? For a brand that is just launching, getting in front of 1,000 people is huge. For Coca-Cola, getting in front of 1,000 people is nothing. It's doing nothing for them, right? They need millions and millions and tens of millions of people. And so it's good to understand, again, where a brand is in their life cycle. Content vibe really matters. It really helps if you've talked about the brand before. You can go to your Fohr profile, go to content search, and pull a report of all of the times you've mentioned a brand. I think we've talked about that in a past episode. We can link to that. Sending them that report saying, hey, I've talked about you, 5 times in the last year, and I've got great engagement on it. All of those things then help to take it from they've answered your DM, they've answered your email, to you're working with them in some capacity. And then, as we've mentioned before, once you've done that, really important to try and retain that client, right? Make sure you're checking in with them every few months. Make sure you're kind of following what they're doing. If they, do launch a new line or a campaign with someone you love, send them a note, right? It's important as we build relationships with these individuals at brands, that we don't just go to them when we want something. Reaching out to them in times where you don't want anything, where you just compliment them, right? It's even, you can set a note every Monday to be like, I want to send 3 emails out just complimenting people, right? And you've got all these people that work in social for these brands. If there's a post that you liked, send them a link to it, say, oh, I loved this. This was really great. It does a lot to, like, keep you top of mind, so that when the next opportunity comes, they're thinking of you. They think about how great you are, how nice you are, how much you love the brand, and you're going to continue to work with them. As always, send us questions, like, subscribe, share this if you find it useful, and we'll be back next week. These fucking pigeons are like sitting outside my window, staring at me.